Here's the question that matters. Is it really ethical, and do we want to evolve human beings? Let me talk about that in the context of prosthetics. So this is the iron hand that belonged to one of the German counts. And of course, these prosthetics have been getting more and more useful, more and more modern. You hear who've been building absolutely extraordinary prosthetics. The interesting thing about prosthetics is they've been coming inside the body. And then they've evolved further. You're talking about something that isn't just, I'm missing my leg. It's, if I don't have this, I can die. It becomes a symbiotic relationship with the human body. These are phonak hearing aids. These are so interesting is because you can have super hearing, you can have hearing in 360 degrees, you can have white noise, you can record, and oh, by the way, they also put a phone into this. So instead of making a prediction about the future to begin with, let's take what's happening in the present with people like Tony Atala, who is redesigning 30-some-odd organs. Maybe the ultimate prosthetic is take your own gene code, remake your own body parts. Of Craig Venter and Ham Smith, how to reprogram cells. And if you can reprogram a cell, then you can change the cells in those organs. So if you can change the cells in those organs, maybe you make those organs more radiation resistant, maybe you make them absorb more oxygen, maybe you make them more efficient to filter out stuff that you don't want in your body. George Church has been in the news a lot because he's been talking about taking one of these programmable cells and inserting an entire human genome into that cell. And a lot of people are very scared by this stuff. And it does sound scary. And there are risks to this stuff. So why in the world would you really want to alter the human body in a fundamental way when you have potentially extinction-level events? You can have periodic extinctions. That's happened 5 times on Earth, and therefore it is very likely that the human species on Earth is going to go extinct someday. Not next week, not next month, maybe 10,000 years after that. If you believe that extinctions are common and natural and normal and occur periodically, it becomes a moral imperative to diversify our species. It's going to be really hard to live on Mars if we don't fundamentally modify the human body. Let's think about life in a series of scales. So life 1 civilization begins to alter his or her looks. And we've been doing that for thousands of years. You alter looks. And a life 2 civilization that alters fundamental aspects of the body. So you put human growth hormone in, the person grows taller, or you put X in and the person gets fatter, or altering the functions in a fundamental way. To become an intrasolar civilization, we're going to have to create a life 3 civilization. And that looks very different from what we've... Maybe you splice in Deinococcus radiodurans so that the cells can resplice after a lot of exposure to radiation. Maybe you breathe by having oxygen flow through your blood instead of through your lungs. Really radical redesigns in the last decade is we've discovered a whole lot of planets out there. As if we ever want to get to these planets, you have to change the time scale and the body of humans in ways which may be absolutely unrecognizable. And that's a life 4 civilization. We can't even begin to imagine what that might look like, but we're beginning to get glimpses of instruments that might take us to examples. So this is the wonderful Floyd Romsberg. He's been playing with the basic chemistry of life. So all life on this planet is made in ATCGs, the 4 letters of DNA. All bacteria, all plants, all animals, all humans, all cows, everything else. Floyd is 2 of those base pairs, so it's ATXY. And that means that you now have a parallel system to make life that doesn't mate with most things on Earth. But why is that so interesting? It means we are not a unique solution. It means you can create alternate chemistries to us that could be adaptable to a very different planet. The second experiment, all life is based on 20 amino acids. If you don't substitute 2 amino acids, if you don't say ATXY, if you say ATCG plus XY, then you go from 20 building blocks to 172. Second experiment's been taking place in China. This guy has been transplanting hundreds of mouse heads. 2 possible outcomes to this experiment. If you can get a mouse that is functional, then you can see, is the new brain a blank slate? Second option, the new mouse remembers what it's afraid of, remembers how to navigate the maze, and if that is true, then you can transplant memory and consciousness. Could you transplant that consciousness into something that would be very different, that would last in space, that would last tens of thousands of years, that would be a completely redesigned body that could hold consciousness for a long, long period of time? And the reason why you want to alter the human body is because that's the way humanity survives long-term extinction. And that's the reason why it's actually unethical not to evolve the human body, even though it can be scary, even though it can be challenging. But it's what's going to allow us to explore, live, and get to places we can't even dream of today, but which our grandchildren might someday. Thank you very much.